Tet Zion until the end of the parak. We're going to be reading about the very famous Shlomo's court case. As we read these psukim, the article that I gave you the other class might begin to sound familiar to you. So as we learn these psukim together, please keep in mind the differences, the similarities between the two women. Keep in mind how Shlomo uses his wisdom that he just got as a gift from Hashem to determine who is telling the truth. And as you learn the psukim, try to figure out for yourself which woman sounds more convincing. Pasuk Tet Zayin. Az tavona shtayim nashim zonot el hamelach vata'amodna lefanav. Then two nashim zonot, two women who were from the lower echelons, the lower ends of society. Either they were zonot, who are women that engage in inappropriate relationships with random people, or they were innkeepers, which are also someone who isn't particularly rich or high up in society. These two people come from the language of Bo to the king, and they stand v'ta'amodna in front of the king. We're already seeing from here that even people who were just the common folk, or even people who weren't super important in society, had open access to come and be judged by Shlomo HaMelech. So how does the conversation go? How does the case proceed? Pasuk Yitzayin, Vatomer ha'isha ha'achat, the first woman, number one, we can call her, or let's call her Rachel. So the first woman, Rachel, she comes to Shlomo. They're both standing before him, and she says, "Bi Adoni, please, my master, ani v'ha'isha hazot yoshvot b'bayit echad." We were residing at that time in the same house. Ve'eledi ma b'bayit, and I gave birth when we were in the house together. And on the third day, bayom hashlishi liliditi, on the third day after I gave birth, vateled gam ha'isha hazot. The other woman, we can call her number two, or we can call her Leah. She also gave birth. So it was the two of them in the house together. Ein zar itanu babayit zulati shtayim anachnu babayit. We were the only two people. We were the only two people in the house. So there were no witnesses in the house to confirm any of this information, which is very important because the only evidence we have is the way the two women present their testimony. That's the only thing we can judge from. So what happens? The first woman continues. Rachel continues. Vayamat ben ha'isha hazot. Rachel, the first woman, claims that Leah's child died in the middle of the night because she suffocated it in the night. She was sleeping in the same bed as her baby, and she must have rolled over or just accidentally put her hand on his mouth and suffocated the baby. What did she do, this other woman? She got up in the middle of the night. She took my baby and she put her dead baby in my arms. So right now I have her dead baby that she suffocated, and she took my living baby, and she switched our babies. And when I got up in the morning, va'akum baboker, I got up in the morning to nurse my baby, and I find a dead baby lying in my arms. And I kind of study him, I look at him carefully to see who he is. And I say, Lo haya b'ni asher yaladati, this is not my child. She switched our children. And that is the end of the first woman's testimony. That's the end of it. She says, again, the other lady, she killed her baby, and she realized she killed her baby, so she took my living baby and gave me her dead baby. That's the first woman. So what is number two? What is her testimony? It begins here. She says, Vatomer ha'isha ha'acheres. The other woman says, Lo, no, ki b'ni hachai, my child is the living one, uvenech, your child, hamet, your child is the dead one. V'zot omer, and the other one says, Lo, ki b'nech hamet uveni hachai. No, your child is the dead one and mine is the living one. Again, so they're arguing over which child is which. And they continue lidaber, to keep talking in front of the king. So at this point, try to gather the evidence in your mind. You can even pause the video right now and you can work on the Google Doc sheet and try to think. We don't have a lot of information. This is the information that Shlomo HaMelech has. Pretend you are forced to come up with a decision. You need to think of some reason that one woman sounds like she's telling the truth more. There's no DNA back then. There's no samples of DNA testing. There's no cameras in the house. No one's around. What do you base your judgment on? So let's continue after you've made your assessments or if you're still thinking. Pasuk Chaf Gimel, Vayomer HaMelech, Zot Omer Zebani Hachai, Uvenei Chamet. Right now, Shlomo is restating and making sure he understands what each woman said. He says, Zot Omer Zebani Hachai, one of you says that my child is the living one and yours is the dead one. So just keep in mind the order. Again, mine is the living and yours is the dead. The other one says, no, ki b'nei chamet uv'ni hachai. Your child is the dead one and mine is the living. Keep in mind, again, the order of in which they speak about each child. It's important right here. And all of a sudden, the king has an idea. He has a test. So after he makes sure that he understands what's going on, he's listening actively, meaning he's taking it in, he's making sure he gets it with his leiv shomea. The king says, I have a plan. Kechu li cherev, bring me a sword. And imagine, everyone's watching him. They probably gasp. Vayaviu acharev, they bring him the sword, and they're probably thinking, what is he going to do? What is he doing with a sword? Vayomer hamelech gizru et hayeled hachai l'shnayim. Cut him into two parts. L'shnayim, into two parts. Utunu et hachatzi la'achat. Give half to one of the mothers. And give half et hachatzi to the other mother. That sounds pretty fair, he says. Just give half and half. It's impossible to tell which one is lying and which one is telling the truth. So let's solve it by compromising half and half, right? Only fair. But what's the genius behind his tactic? He's playing on the emotions. If someone's telling the truth and it's really their child, they're going to have a certain emotion to that, an attachment to that child. The woman whose son was actually living, the one who was telling the truth, says because she was she was like overcome with mercy and sadness about killing her own child. Her compassion was aroused and was like woken up. Vatomer, that woman who was telling the truth, says, Bi Adoni, please, my master, please just don't cut him. Just give her the child. Vahamet altimi too. Don't kill him. She says, forget about it. I don't need to have him, but just don't kill him. Give him to her. It's fine. But the other one says, Gamli, Gamlach. We should both have the baby. Lo yegozru. She says, cut the baby because that's the only way to do it. You need to cut the babies because neither one of us can have him whole. And with that, after this whole episode, the king says, Vayan hamelach vayomer. The king answers and he says, Tenu la. Give her the living child. Don't cut him up. Give her the living child. Don't kill him. He, imo. She, the one who cried out, don't kill him, just give him to the other woman. Give him to the other woman. She is the true mother. And that's the end of the records of the court case. And as a epilogue or a little side note, the ending note, very important, the result of this case, Vayishma'u kol Yisrael, whether they were bystanders or not, everyone heard et hamishpat asher shafar hamelach, the judgment of the king. Remember, he wanted to be able to judge the people. So after we hear the story about Shlomo getting his wish to judge the people, we have a story about him actually using it. They were in awe, like yirat Hashem, in awe of Hashem. They were in awe of the king. Ki ra'u ki chachmat Elokim b'kirbo la'asot mishpat. That Shlomo was not only smart on his own way, right? But he had a certain, like, almost part of Hashem's gift of wisdom. It was obvious that Hashem had given him a gift of wisdom. So feel free to replay this video if you need, whatever you need. Feel free to ask me any questions, and please complete the assigned questions. And again, if anything's not clear, or if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to ask.